Welcome everyone to another Teach Kevin Your Thing session. I've been looking forward to this session all week, and for this session, I'm having Aiden Bai talk about his project called Million and how he's making React 70% faster. How you doing, Aiden?
I'm doing great. Hey everyone. My name is Aiden. I work on Million.js, which is a React alternative that makes React 70% faster. Um, it's faster, it's as easy to use. You wrap a component in a block, and we're excited to share it to you.
Yeah, you just went right to it. I like it. So I'm quite interested in a couple of things, really. First of all, 70% is a lot of claim. At the moment when I heard about
Mhm.
Million, because your project is really hot, like right now, it's like everywhere. And I think it's pretty interesting because I thought to myself, if it was like maybe 10% faster, I'd be like, okay, it's fine. But 70, that got me thinking,
Mhm.
what's the problem? And first of all, what was the motivation to do this for you? Like, why do you want to take on a project to make React 70% faster?
Well, yeah, I mean, if for from like a user standpoint, if it wasn't setting, it was if it was only 10% faster, I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't use it, right? Like if it was the same API, it provided
Mm-hmm.
any extra authoring experience, then it's just like, okay, cool, you did a thing. But
Yeah.
once it's 70% faster, or we try to claim to be 70% faster, people are more likely to use it. Um, in terms of like the specifics, the 70% faster claim comes from there's a benchmark called the JS framework benchmark. Um, and there's a bunch of JavaScript frameworks on it, and Million just happens to be 7% faster on that benchmark.
Hmm. Interesting. That's fun. So let's go a little bit back because I really want to get like a backstory. So could you just,
Mhm.
what's your background like? Like, how long have you been doing this?
Sure.
Software. Like, just tell us about Aiden Bai for a little bit. Let's get some context. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm currently 18. I live in Washington State in the United States. At 15, I fell in love with open source and I started working on Million. But it really didn't start there. It actually started all the way back in fifth grade. I didn't really grow up with a computer. So when our school issued laptops or Chromebooks to every single person in the grade, I was finally able to, play games online, do video games, whatever. But one day the school blocked video games. They don't want students to play video games at school. And so what happened was I built my own firewall jumper or like firewall bypasser, and from there it just kind of spiraled. Like my love for games kind of made me get into coding, and then from there open source, etc.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I think a ton of programmers really love gaming. I'm not just one. I'm happy for everyone who game as a programmer. So you said at 15 you fell in love with open source, and you built this firewall jumper just so that you could actually play your games, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for at 15, I was like really bored, and I had done like kind of open source
Mm-hmm.
um, for several years, just like posting stuff on GitHub, but that's not really open source, right? Like open source is all about the community. How can you get people to start your project or use your project, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and so I was like 15, I was like, okay, it's summer. I have 3 months to work on something I want to do. I'm like, okay, this summer I'm gonna work on Million, and then just from there, I just kept working on it. The summer ended and then the school year started, and between classes like math, science, I just work on Million. Um,
Mm.
just kind of yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I've always thought to myself, what's with the name? What
Yeah.
inspired Million really?
Okay, I was like trying to figure out a name for it because like I made a virtual DOM and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, that's like the worst name ever. I mean, there already is a package called virtual DOM.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, there's packages like Snap DOM. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be named something called DOM at the end because
Okay.
if my mom's looking at it, yeah, it's very interesting naming. Let's just say that. And
Yeah.
so I looked up like a npm of like package availability, and I
Mm-hmm.
just let it scroll, and I saw million, and immediately like everything clicked. I'm like, what if I made like this a million times faster than the other
Ooh.
frameworks? That never
Mm.
happened,
Yeah.
but um, we now we it is now called Million.
Yeah.
Um, we do have
That's
a mascot as well called
yes.
the Middle Lion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little. If you don't know what the logo looks like, it's actually a snout of a lion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I did see that and I was like, wow, that was really creative because at first I'd be like, what is this? Then I think I read like a post or something where then I met the actual full mascot. I was like, oh, this is smart. This is really, 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 really smart. So I have a question for you. Why didn't you go the other route as most folks would be like, say, if I can make React 70% faster, right? Why don't I just make
Mhm.
my own React, my own framework?
Yeah, my consensus is that there's too many frameworks, and developers are tired of new frameworks, unless you can provide like a very novel authoring experience, like Solid. You know, Solid has signals, or
Mm-hmm.
Svelte. Svelte has their own whole language. If I just made React but faster, nobody would really use it. I mean, you could just use Preact or Inferno or blah 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 blah. So many like React-like frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was like, okay, React users like using React. That's for a reason. How can I
Yeah.
make React faster? Also, it's like way less work. I can focus
Okay.
on doing. Yeah, I mean, like building a framework is hard because you have to think about so many things. With
That's
React, I
true.
could just piggyback on existing ecosystem tools. Like I don't have to build my own state. I don't have to build my own meta framework like
Yeah.
Next.js. I
Mm,
don't have to build my own, etc.
yeah. So that's interesting. So you've mentioned all these pieces. So the obvious question now is where does Million fit in this ecosystem of UI frameworks?
Yeah. I like to say it's more like a TanStack tool but only for React.
Okay.
Like how TanStack has query, virtual
Yeah.
router, whatever. It's like a plugin that works at any level of React that you use. Like if you just use React client side rendering, TanStack works. Million will also work. If
Okay.
you use TanStack at a server side level, it will also work. Same principle there.
Interesting. All right. So let's take this geeking out up a notch. Why, like, okay, I really don't want to say what's wrong, but
Mm.
what was the opportunity that existed with React that you could see to make it 70% faster? Like, what was the opening? Like, why was that available?
Yeah, if you've heard the word term virtual DOM thrown around,
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
because of that. Yeah, the virtual DOM is okay. I wouldn't say it's like so to define the virtual DOM. The
Mm-hmm.
virtual DOM essentially is what React uses to put stuff on your page, translate code to page content. And the way it does it is through this process called diffing. And in short, the bigger your application becomes, the more computation it needs to do. And so the slower the page becomes. And so it
Okay.
expands linear with your page size or your component size in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what if we didn't want that to happen? Like, why should components have O of n time complexity,
Yeah.
so to say? Um, why can't we just not scale? And so the way we do it with Million is that we kind of do what Solid does, but you don't have to use signals.
Okay.
Essentially, you just write React. What Solid does essentially, or what Million does essentially, it figures out the relationship between the state or some sort of data
Mm-hmm.
and the user interface.
Okay.
And so like that could be a specific DOM node.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of recomputing the entire thing every single time, we only make that one change to the DOM node. And so
Mm.
essentially, it's O of n, O of one, if O1 was your data, right?
Yeah.
Um, for every update. And that's how we do pretty fast DOM updating stuff.
Mm. So that's interesting. So from what I know about React, when it wants to re-render stuff, it literally just blows away the entire UI and actually change it up again when stuff changes, right? So what you're saying is Million is sort of like bringing a little bit of fine-grained reactivity. Is that how to say it?
I would say it's the impact of the fine-grained reactivity because
The
we don't
impact.
have this, yeah, the state or the data, like we don't have signals,
Mm-hmm.
but we have the same effect, like the
This,
same impact
oh,
to the, yeah.
cool. So that's lead to the question: how do you have the same effects really? Like, what is Million really doing? Because you mentioned it's smart enough to only update certain pieces of your UI that changes. How do you do that?
Yeah, we do a compile pass. So we have a compiler that analyzes what you write with your React components. And so we can like dig through the JSX and figure out where the dynamic parts of the user the JSX are,
Mm-hmm.
and then we build those relationships using something called an edit map. And
Mm,
in simple, it's just like a cheat sheet. Like I have a cheat sheet here. And what
mm-hmm.
what the compiler does, it goes like, okay, this JSX has this data, right? For
Yeah.
example, like inside this div, I want you to insert the count state.
Okay.
Um, and it builds this kind of task list up. And so the next time you render, it just references this task list
Mm-hmm.
um, to like update the DOM node specifically.
Mm, interesting. That's interesting, really. So, wow. Look, so the other thing I thought of when I heard about Million, because it's set to wrap your components, and I was thinking, how is the DX like? Like,
Mhm.
how does it really feel to use Million in the wild? Because it's wrapping React components, even though with all these benefits, like if I'm going to use it today in my code base, how is it going to look like? Like, what overhead am I going to accrue?
Yeah, basically none other than the bundle. Like
Oh, okay.
there is, so we do static analysis at both runtime and compile time. And
Mm,
so you have the option to use the compiler. If you don't use the compiler, then you're doing that all that analysis at runtime, which is also not that bad because you only do it once per block definition. Um,
okay.
Essentially, it's just rendering and walking the tree and then building up that task list, which is
Mm-hmm.
essentially the same cost as like one render for a normal React component.
Mm,
Um, So the cost is pretty low. There at the moment, there's not that much harm in terms of performance. If it doesn't like, if the component you wrap it, it doesn't really do anything, then it's okay. Um, but there should be a pretty big benefit if you do have a component um, that is like pretty data or user interface heavy. Yeah.
mm, cool. So, what's also the story with RSC, because that's another new shiny bubbling thing right now. Like, because you mentioned for UI, so
Mhm.
I'm assuming Million is targeting client side components. But like, what's the story like
Yeah.
if you're going to work with RSC, or do you even work
Yeah.
with RSC?
Right now, the current state is we only support client components, and anytime you import Million, it becomes a client component because we do client specific rendering.
Yeah, that
But
makes
I
sense.
was talking to Ryan, I think, or someone, and they were talking about, okay, what if we implemented block VDOM on the server, or sorry,
Mm,
the Million like
yeah.
architecture, yeah, on the server,
Mm,
using RC. But that's something still to explore. We're also looking into like React Native and a bunch of other
okay.
stuff, but like um, where it's nowhere completed. Yeah.
That's that. I'm really sure that you could actually explore that going forward, because of course there's so much to experiment on. What version are you right now?
We're two point, oh my gosh, I don't remember, 2.4.5,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Two is good. Oh, that's really stable. Yeah, that's pretty stable for two. So cool.
To be
Um,
fair, yeah,
yeah.
we don't follow Semver, so just
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay, okay, okay. That's fine. But I'm pretty sure it's been loved, of course, by almost every developer out there because we the JS folks we love our performance. So anything that's gonna give
mhm,
us that,
for
we
sure.
all up for it. So yeah. So thank you for doing that. So now that we are done with the theory and the geeking out, I want to take it to another level and really see Million in action. So I do hope you have some demo for me because I want to see
Yeah,
the DX of Million and how you use it. So do you want to share your screen now?
yeah, I think I already have it shared.
Okay, cool. No, yeah, we are.
Cool. Okay, let's see if hope this works. So just to inform you on this demo, we have a giant table with 1,000 rows. Um, like when we click it, you can see that it increments and then it calculates a product. The actual calculation is not that expensive. The main bottleneck of this benchmark is the DOM.
Mm,
So every single row has, I forgot how many, but there's like over 50 hidden rows inside each row. And so updating is expensive. That's the point of the benchmark or the demo.
okay.
And so when I click like really fast, you can see that there is a really high blocking time. And so like when I click out really fast, I can't interact with other parts of the UI
Mm.
because the JavaScript is blocking.
Yeah, and it's janky too.
Um, but like, okay, you might be saying, okay, what if I did React Fiber? Uh, Good point. Yeah, React Fiber is good. And so when I click really fast, you can see that but the issue here is I'm clicking like, way faster than I'm clicking super fast here. You can see that it's going up really fast. But with React Fiber, misses certain like it's not going up so like essentially the trade-off here is instead of paying your entire house in cash, you pay your house pay the cash over time.
Okay.
And so the issue with this is you miss clicks. When I click here, there's like a bit of a delay when updating user interface,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like not the I wouldn't say there in cases it's a trade, but when you want your application to update fast, it's not necessarily a viable trade-off.
Mm.
With
Interesting.
Million,
Yeah, go ahead.
need I say less? Like it's
Yeah.
it's very fast, right? Um, Without fiber at all.
Wow. There's no
So
the red
like
signal thing going on.
basically, yeah, no, not at all. And you can see that it updates really fast, like as fast as I click.
Mm.
But with fiber, not at all, right? It's pretty slow. I mean, it's actually doing okay, but yeah. Just like so like the main point of this benchmark is to show you that especially when you have DOM heavy cases, Million works
Um.
very well with React. And for context, this is just yeah, this is just React code but wrapped in a block function, which is something Million has. Um, and we can
Yeah.
also check out like
Hold up a
do you have
little
any questions
bit.
by the way?
No, I
Just
don't
double
have
check.
a question.
Mm,
I did notice when you
mhm.
started hitting the button for React Fiber, our quality for this degraded immensely, and it's so
Okay.
bad. Yeah. So is it just me or like memory being used is actually making this degrade?
It's probably because it's I'm running a stream or running a screen share and then
Yeah.
also this at the same time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm. I don't know. Okay.
I can just put the link on the screen if you ever yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Good if you wanna
Yeah. Sure.
try
Sure.
that.
We are going to have to share the link because this is expensive computation for some reason on React Fiber's end and for React, but the Million one was actually going pretty smoothly for some reason. Yeah.
Mm, gotcha. Okay, interesting. Um, do you want to
Mhm.
drive the demos from now on, or just because it might be a little bit laggy?
No, I think it's good now. Just let's
Okay.
yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay.
Mhm.
We can kind of look at the code uh, of how you use it. Um, I don't have any specific looks, but like essentially the code just kind of looks like this.
Okay.
You have a component, you wrap it in a block, and now you have a component block. In this case, it's like a line, and you can see here, there's our mascot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, what if we had a more complex case, like a data grid, and we built our own data grid?
Okay.
Um, you can see here that with React, actually, this is probably not this
Okay.
one, yeah. With React, it kind of lags when I put the number up a little bit.
Mm.
Sorry if the screen is low quality.
That's
But you
fine.
can see I'm like this should be going down and up, but like my
Yeah,
you know my computer, yeah, it just doesn't work.
that's
But
mental.
once we get yeah, once we add a block, it should be just fine. And so like this is like one of the main advantages of um, Million. It's just like it just works really really well with DOM heavy operations. Yeah, like essentially we can essentially this we were talking about like the virtual DOM stuff before.
Yeah.
You can see here that we have like two virtual DOMs and you have to do the whole computation here. But with Million, you just develop the relationship between the data and the UI,
Okay.
figure out where those places are, create an edit map, which is like that task list.
Yeah.
Then you just have two checks. So the amount of updates you actually do is generally speaking the same amount of data you have. And so that was like much less than before, right?
Yes, it is. Interesting. So this task lists, like you mentioned, lets Million to know what certain bits in the UI have changed, and then use the task list to like go over them to make the updates. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, yeah.
Mm,
Exactly.
that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's like I mean, if you want to think about it in the easiest way, it's just like imagine signal solid but without signal, and that's basically what a million is.
Wow, cool. So I guess the block function returns a, what does it return really? Let me know guess on it. Like what does it return back?
It returns a component. So
Okay.
you
A
can see how I have this roadblock,
mm-hmm.
and then I can use it within my code like this. We
Oh
do have
yeah.
also a for component, by the way. I forgot to mention that.
Oh cool.
Essentially, yeah, I mean, it's the same as this. If you're familiar with solid, it's the same
Yeah.
as the solid one. But essentially, um, it allows us to do efficient rendering.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, you don't have to use map or you don't have to use for, but it's generally recommended you do.
Right. Because I've read and I've seen. I think Ryan also mentioned that the dot map that's being used in React, it's a bottleneck. So I guess the for component kind of mitigate that, right?
Exactly. With map, you have every single render, you're building that entire map over and over and over again. That's really expensive. With for, you don't have to do that. Well, you do, but like you can do it in a more efficient way, specifically for Million.
That's brilliant. So, that's this is really interesting. So, as far as okay, let's just talk about some low level DXs. So,
Mhm,
if the block wraps a component that needs a prop, like I could see here, it could
mhm.
let the prop you pass to it. I don't know, like how does this prop passing work right now?
Yeah, in terms of like the how users understand or like our implementation detail.
Mostly on the, well, maybe you could touch on both, but mostly on the DX for user, because I know I
Okay.
defined the prop in the JXS component itself and not on the block. But at the end of the day, I could use the prop when I use that component. That's really
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's free. You essentially, I don't have a good example here, but essentially you can use hooks, you can use props, you can
Hmm.
use whatever inside blocks. You can also use it inside for. Like here, this entire thing could be a block.
Okay.
Um, our compiler automatically analyzes it and it extracts everything out into two components, and then from there
Mm,
you don't have to worry about it. Um,
okay, cool. Oh,
yeah, it we do try to make it as easy as possible to use blocks.
mhm.
And so you when you hit something that's incompatible with our implementation, it essentially just defers back to React. So it's like a progressive enhancement degradation kind of deal.
Oh, cool.
Uh, and so we do have a bunch of rules I
Mm-hmm.
should show. Like for example, one of the major ones is deterministic returns. We don't support early returns yet. We're working on it. But once you have one of these things, essentially what it does is it just tells React to, okay, you handle this. I don't want to handle this anymore. And so you don't have any loss when you apply a block. It's just something you should look out for. Um,
Mm,
we do have compiler errors and whatever. And then like
yeah.
UI component libraries, we don't support at the moment either.
Oh, interesting. So, if Million find like a use case that it doesn't really understand, it just let it fall through to the GXS component itself, so you don't really lose anything. There's no bottleneck. That is really good. That is
Exactly.
progressive enhancement on that level. I like it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah,
more
we
rules.
try to make
Hmm.
it yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible to do all this stuff. And hopefully, you
Yeah.
should definitely try it out if you're watching this.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So for like from what you've shown, I don't think in terms of DX, there's really nothing. There's no burden on the DX level, right? But you have these benefits for free because since the block gives you an actual component itself, is as if you actually author that component, but you get Million compiler and stuff taken care of, making sure it's performant. I think it's a win-win. I don't see a drawback, but is there? When should you not use Million? Let's go for it.
Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah, sure. I mean, the current issue is we're not stable yet. I
okay.
wouldn't say we're very stable. There are certain like edge cases where we're hitting like, if you're a company or a user, we would love your feedback and to try it out. But I can like one thing I'm working right now is like what if we nested blocks, or like what if we made like use tan stack table, and like right now it doesn't work as well as we want it to with other libraries, but in terms of like React itself, it's pretty good. um yeah, so the issues, like what's the drawback, when you not use Million? It's mostly when you don't really need performance, like your performance is good enough. Like for example, if you want to make a personal website and you want to make it really, really fast, you probably shouldn't be using like a high performance library. You should use something like Astro that, statically renders everything. You don't want very client side render stuff, unless you have like interactive stuff. But other than that, no. Blogs, static websites, those types of things, you should focus on static tools, or tools that allow you to generate static stuff, so you can load your app faster. But if you do have like dashboards or data grids and those sort of things that require, you know, interaction, Million is not a bad idea. In terms of like what you're doing, like if you have like a spa,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you just client render everything, then you might as well try out Million in certain cases and see how it goes.
Yeah.
We're actually working on a like an analytics thing where it shows you how much improvement there is using
Okay.
Million, but that's a sneak peek.
Oh yeah, you're headed first on TKYT. You're so you mentioned something which I think is really cool. So for stuff like maybe internal dashboards, like it's not you don't need SEO. Definitely do something like Astro for all that stuff. But if you're having a completely client rendered application, you get a ton of benefits for just using Million, and it's you could actually use it on some components, right? Not everything, right? So you could pick where you want to use Million, and you could just have it alongside with your normal GXS components, right?
Exactly. We
Yeah.
operate at a component by component level.
That's good. That's a win. Like I think every React developer, if you're going to be building something like this, like you're going to do single page application with React, you should just give Million a try. So, do you have any other demo you want to show me? Because I feel you've really touched on the ethos and also the DX. Because I really love a good DX, and even though I want performance, but the DX should not suffer. And with what you shown, the DX does it's not even touched at all. So I like it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could go. I don't know how technical you want it to go, but we can like kind of try to implement. We can try to understand from like a code level of how Million
Mm-hmm.
works,
Yeah.
or we could just. Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, please
Um,
let's do that. Let's see
okay,
how
let's do
Million
it.
works under the hood.
Create a project, front end, TypeScript? No, I don't want to write TypeScript today. Let's see. Okay, is the code big enough here?
Yeah, it's good. You know, I think that section where you just said TypeScript, no, I don't know what TypeScript. They should be mined. It's just so good. It's good. Oh, please,
Oh
guy,
man,
that's fun.
it's yeah.
I
I
know.
mean, theoretically it does help, but it's just like I don't want to. It's too much work.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too. I am not a fan. I like types, but not TypeScript. But no, no,
right.
this no TypeScript was we ham today, folks. So please, we're all good. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay,
let's
cool.
see.
Okay, so I mean, like
Mm,
the basic premise is like, okay, so how do we do the? Okay, let's look at the diagram again. Well, let me remove this. It's like killing my computer. Um, oh my gosh, where to go here?
okay.
So let's re-implement it based on the diagram. We go to Million.js. We want to figure out where these like question marks are, right? Okay, so how
Mm,
do we do that? Let's make a new
okay.
component. We'll call this component, and we'll do this mostly in the console.
Okay.
Component, and then let's just return like hello. Okay, so what happens when we log a component? We can kind of look at the internals of what React gives us. You can see how there's like this bunch of stuff, but in principle, you have this type. This type
Mm-hmm.
refers to your
Mm-hmm.
component, your props. Oh, there are no props. Let's do something like
Yeah, of course.
text. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there you go. Props should wait. Oh,
Yeah, we did pass the
text.
prop. Yeah.
Yeah. Oops, that's very embarrassing.
No, that's fine.
World. Okay. And then it should have text equals world, and the type refers to that. And that's like pretty much all we're looking for right now.
Mm-hmm.
So this is creating a component because you're putting in JSX, right? We could also just like run the component, like what happens there. Text is equal to like world. Um, and we actually don't have much issue with that. You can see how we have props, children, and we have hello and world.
Mm.
Um, and then this, what we got from here was actually this JSX stuff in object form,
Yeah.
in the JavaScript form, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is cool, but the issue is like we want to have this sort of question mark thing going on, right? And
Yes, we
so,
do.
okay, what if we just made like a special object and we called it a placeholder?
Okay.
And then let's actually make it like a function so we can create placeholders. Create placeholder like that, right? And then we had like a special like value or something like that. And this value is like the prop that is associated. So for example, the value of this thing would be the text.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, like that. But we
Yeah.
want it to be like, let's call it this name.
Okay.
Um, and so here, instead of passing the actual value, what if we just passed the name? And you can see here that we have an object here instead of world.
Mm.
Um, oh, I'm passing the wrong thing, like the
Yeah,
text.
I was gonna mention that. Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
And so this is sort of like the placeholder thing I was talking about, right? Where you have the question marks here, and then those represent the like placeholder values of what is going to be in the future. And remember, we have to like figure out where these placeholders are, right? And so we have this
Yeah.
like traversal thing, like okay, the compiler looks through all the nodes and develops an edit map.
Mm.
And so like in principle, this is how we do it. We literally run the function on the server um, like this. We put placeholders inside of the tree, and you can see
Yeah.
here we have like a placeholder instead of a text here. And then we extract out the placeholders. And so we can figure out, okay, this value is not a string, it's not a React element, therefore it's a placeholder. And then from there, we can develop our edit map. Um,
Mm.
and so this is, yeah, this is like a very toned down implementation, but like
Of course.
yeah, that's essentially
Mhm.
how we do it.
Mm. That's interesting. Yeah, it's almost like let's just like a very performant, let's say like if you have a templating engine, for example, you have placeholders where at compile time you just look for where those placeholders are and inject the actual values in there. That- that's some cool stuff. But of course you're building like an edit map.
Mhm.
So yeah, what's in the edit map really?
Yeah, we store a couple things, but in simple, it's basically, oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah,
In
it is, I
simple,
mean.
like if we have, yeah, it's just like an array,
Okay.
or is it an array? Yeah, it is an array. And then we have each array and object has like each item in the array is an object. This
Mm-hmm.
object has a path, and so it's like the traversal path to get to here. So like if we imagine
Mm.
um, this tree, right, and this is the
Mm.
placeholder, our
Yeah.
path would be go to the first node in the first layer, go to the first node in the first layer, go to the first node in the first layer, and then
Mm.
we just build that those pathways.
Mm.
So this could be like go to the first node, go to the first node, and then go to the first node.
Wow.
We also have like a value, right? And so this could be text in this case. And so later on, we could just run like props at text and then get the value,
Mm.
the actual
Interesting.
value.
Yeah.
Um, that's pretty much it. Like that's like the main two things, right? Like getting to the specific place you want it to be, and then inserting the value there.
Mm. That's really interesting. So, are there any special algorithm or inspiration you used, especially for this edit map because there's a traversal going on in the trees, so to speak. So, yeah, any learnings on the algorithm speak or any
Mhm.
inspiration that you picked up from?
Yeah, the algorithm we use was actually I mean, like, I just asked Alexis from the Solid team. Alexis is really talented. He makes spaghetti. He works on Solid Start now as a fellow. But essentially, I was like, Alexis, my thing is slow because every time I have to make a block, it has to traverse from the root. How do I fix this? And then he was like, okay, well, give me a second. And like literally a day later, he's like, okay, I have a prototype. And it essentially uses the solid way of traversing. Uh, there are two improvements. Number one, we instead of using like children at a certain, like instead of doing, here, let me just show you. Instead of doing like children at zero, children at
Mm-hmm.
zero, this type of
Yeah.
thing, we do that first child, that first child, that first child. Like, but what if it's like three or something like that, right? We
Mm-hmm.
could do dots next sibling. So
Mm.
um, I learned that traversal this way is much faster because you don't have to build the actual children every single time you index it. Um, because underlying is something
Yeah.
like a weird data structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, And also, we use the same compilation strategy. So essentially, instead of having, we do generate paths,
Okay.
but at compile time, instead of using those paths, we generate some like special stuff where we have like a callback, let's call it callback, and essentially generates the actual um, like like whatever thing
Yeah.
for us. So we don't have to do it at runtime. Well, we do have to do it at runtime, but like this is all we're running at runtime. We don't have to like recalculate it at runtime.
Hmm. Interesting. So, um, do you do any form of caching in when stuff don't change, so you don't have to redo work?
Yeah, so we do caching on that level, right? The
Mm-hmm.
memo, like we do memoization. So like
Okay.
if the thing doesn't change, then we don't update.
Yeah.
But we also do caching after we traverse. So you don't have to traverse every single time. You
Mm-hmm.
traverse once, and on every later render, you don't have to do it again. Um, Let me see what else caching we do. We do caching of events, so it's a little bit
Okay.
faster there. But I think every framework does it as well. But yeah.
Hmm. That's this is really nifty. This is really brilliant. I know for a fact that to sweat this level of performance because I had um Ryan come on the show to talk about signals. Like he literally built signals from scratch, and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing!" It's because I know the thinking because at this level you don't want to be the bottleneck. So your algorithm, your code, you need to make sure that it's really, really performant, right? So it's really a ton of work. So what's like your, let's say, I don't know, like vision for Million in terms of adoption, in terms of going
Mhm.
wild with some crazy ideas, and like what's it like the long term goal, Million?
Yeah, the long-term goal is to become like, what if we made tan stack, but like okay, not tan stack, but like what if we were tan stack but
Mhm.
for performance? From
Mm.
what I see, there's not very much like performance tools for React. To be fair to React team, they do have like a built-in profiler,
Okay.
which and you just do like profiler, right? That programmatically allows you to inspect renders of your component.
Okay.
But that's it. Or they have dev tools, and you can like look at the dev tools. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be so much more than that. What if we have tools that allow us to inspect reconciliation? What if we have tools to understand um, concurrency? Like, what if we have like a start transition or like Fibre or whatever?
Mm.
What if we have tools that help us literally monitor the whole React component? What if we had compilers that figured out whether certain things are slow or certain things are fast?
Yeah.
Um, Building kind of a performance suite for developers in React, so they're able to debug and fix performance issues faster.
Mm. Yeah. That I feel that's really important because I have this weird experience where I literally had to stop using an app because the performance was so bad and you could see it. Like it's not something you could even ignore. Like you click on a model, it's just gonna slowly come out. Then after that, it's gonna be, like go back to the normal speed. Then you do stuff, it's just so slow, and it was built with React. So I feel those
Mhm.
kind of UIs because it was really client side heavy because I know it was doing a great deal of work, but I just could not bear the pain of having to use such slow UI. So for those kind of apps, they could literally just go grab Million and just make a block and see how it improves those um interactivity, right? Because once it's perceived that your app is slow, it is slow because
Slow.
yeah, it's that's some good stuff.
Yeah,
Mm.
to be fair, like there are like I don't want to say like 10x engineers, but that you could write good React apps, and those like very experienced developers will tell you like, okay, you can write React apps good, and like
Mm-hmm.
you know what, good for you, you can. You probably don't hit those edge cases, but you know what, for the majority of React developers, I'm not saying the code is bad necessarily, but it's not obvious to write how to write performant code, and that's why you get those very slow applications, right?
Yeah. Mm-mm. It's like having that experience. I could appreciate Million even more because I feel that app would have really done a great deal because sometimes you don't really see this stuff locally because you know that it
Mhm.
works on my machine kind of thing. But when it's over the network, it's deployed. There's so much going on. There's so much latency, so much network calls. You're doing that. You don't know when you're even doing some blocking operations. But having this sort of safety hatch is just good.
Right. Totally. For sure.
Yeah. Awesome. I think yeah, do you have anything else you want to tell me or show me about Million? If not, we could call it because I feel this is just like a super performance utility for React. And this the cool thing is it's so simple to use. You don't even have to, like have a high learning curve. So it's you're winning on that one for me because I could just say, hey, how do I use Million? Get a block, wrap your components, you're done.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like the best way to feel it is to try it out, right? And I think I really appreciate that you said that because
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Yeah, serious, like job is done. It's
Mhm.
it's because sometimes most tools they tend to want to be in your face too much, and I don't really like those kind of tools because I don't really want to be like, okay, I know, like it's just so obvious I'm using Million because Million is doing so much, but it's out of my way, right? I just wrap I
Right.
forget that I'm using Million, and to me, if you've achieved that kind of DX, you just win because it's just easy to just plug it
Hmm.
and you go. So I love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, for sure. So do you have any? Because for being a teacher on the show or guest, you could plug in anything. So you could give a shout out. You could tell us anything you want us to do. Like, how can the viewers help you do? What do you want us to do? Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. No. Shout out to TKYT. Go subscribe to them. I feel
Wow.
like it was a really great experience on here, and
Mhm.
there should be more people that know this. I was like surprised that not my, like I think I'm sure like in some communities like I was talking about like TKYT and people don't know. So if you don't know that, share with your friends, share with your
Yeah.
family, share with your dog, show your pet. Oh, I learned about block redom today or whatever.
Wow.
So yeah, that's if you do want to check out Million, it is
Yeah. Sure.
million.dev.
Hmm.
But yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
definitely, Sam. Really, thank you for the shout out. Yes, you're headed from Aiden, the guy who's making React 70% faster. Check out TKYT. And also, Aiden, after saying this, I want to say hi or just ask you questions. Where can I do that?
Check out I'm available on anything.
Okay.
Aiden Y Bai,
Okay.
or just look up Aiden Bai online.
Hmm.
Just ping me on Twitter, Discord, just not LinkedIn, please. Don't ping me on LinkedIn. Just go on Twitter and then I'll respond to you.
Okay, I'm not even going to ask why on LinkedIn, but that's cool. Yeah, thank you so much, Aiden, for your time. I really love this session, and I know this is going to be very valuable for folks who want to get performance. I'm going to be a Million advocate because I love the DX. There's no overhead. I've said that. I'm just going to say, just use Million if I see a React app that is not performing really well. I'm just going to tell the person, please just go use Million. Wrap this stuff up and get performance for free.
Yeah, excited. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Thank you so much.